What's up, Clever Movies? You guys, I am totally nerding out because I am at the Prop Store Warehouse in LA where they are about to hold a massive movie prop auction from the catalog of special effects legend Rick Baker. There is a lot of stuff here. How did this come about?
I started this huge studio, 60,000 square feet, packed with stuff. And I'm 64 and a half years old. I just thought, it's time to call it quits. The transformation in American Werewolf is probably what put me on the map.
Sure.
And so many people still say it's the best transformation. Men in Black was a pretty expensive thing because part of it was just doing, a lot of effort and time went into the design of it. Everything you see there is sculpted out of clay. And then a mold is made, and then there's all the mechanisms that make it work. It's a long design process, especially now in films. There's so many people with opinions that chime in, and this truly was painful to get everybody to agree upon a design. Like it happened on The Grinch, for example. And I did a design, and they said, we think that's too much. And they kept wanting me to paint Jim Carrey green. And I said, it's going to wreck the film. It's not called How the Green Jim Carrey Stole Christmas. It's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He should be a Grinch, I said, now you look at this and tell me that's not cool, They go, yeah, it is cool, but it doesn't look like Jim. And I said, but it's not so much about looking like Jim. Yes, you're paying him a lot of money, and he's going to earn his money, and he's going to bring what nobody else can bring to the part, I think, Please let me do this. It was this battle. And we did, I don't know how many, hundreds of designs, and it was only at the very last minute that I was able to convince them to go with it. The popular thing in Hollywood is just to say yes and do what they ask for. If I think they're wrong, I try to show them that they are.
What about some of these Gremlins?
I did Gremlins too.
Yeah.
The original Gremlins, I said, I don't want to just make what was in the first movie. I'm not that interested in doing that. They said, well, what can we do to make you want to do it? And I said, let me redesign them some and make characters out of them. In the original movie, all the Gremlins came out of the same mold. All the Mogwais were out of the same mold. I like individual characters, and it was the same thing I did with apes. They're not all the same. They have individual faces. So I said, if I can make them characters, I would be much more interested. And if I could redesign the whole basic concept of what the gremlin is, still staying in the ballpark, So came up with the idea of doing the genetics lab where they mutate and change into other things. And they were interchangeable. You only had to make those half a dozen puppets, but we had to make a half a dozen puppets for each of the individual characters that we had. So we had hundreds and hundreds of gremlins that we made, and believe what we made on that film was so many things, because not just all the versions of the gremlins, but then they all melt at the end, and they, like I said, they change in the genetics lab, and they just did all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was a blast, though.
What about some of this Nutty Professor stuff? I can't help but stare at this dead body that is laying here.
Well, he's not dead. He's going to the acupuncturist to try to lose weight. So many people think that doing something like a gremlin or an alien is actually harder than doing an overweight makeup, but it isn't, because people are so much more critical of an old age makeup or some kind of human makeup.
You see that so often.
Exactly. Like I said, you look in the mirror, you see when you see people around you. Is because in this dinner scene, he could only be one character a day because of the makeup time and the removal time and how sore his skin was going to be after that. A scene that would take normally like a day to shoot if they were different actors would take 5 days because he was five different characters. So some accountant said, you know what, we could save a lot of money if we don't have Eddie play all these parts and just have other actors play it. And that was the scene that made the movie, and I knew that was going to do that. So again, it was Rick Baker being the stubborn, guy that he was, and I fought to keep it in. And I called up Eddie and I said, they don't know what they're doing. They're going to cut the stuff out. We have to show them. And Eddie said, I don't even know how I'm going to play this yet. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I kept him in the makeup shirt. He said to me, this is so much more real than I ever thought it was going to be. And I had my video camera out and I pointed it in the mirror and I just said, just tell me about your son Sherman, and that's all it takes to get Eddie started, and he tries stuff, and he would try these different voices, and we, before I knew it, I had hours of footage of Eddie doing all kinds of hysterical stuff and making the makeup look totally different. He would play it differently and contort his face and make it a different character.
So of all the creatures that you have, which one will you not part with?
Well, I have a lot that I didn't part with. I mean, a lot of the stuff I didn't part with is really the older stuff. American Werewolf stuff, I pretty much kept most of that. And I definitely have a Harry, but we have some Harry stuff that's up for auction.
Have you ever created a creature, a character, based on someone that you know?
Yes. And also based on people I don't know. You know, I mean, I'm always looking at people and at animals and things and stealing things that I see that are cool, you know.
Is there something that is special to you that's your personal crowning achievement?
Harry, I think, is the one that I feel the fondest of and the closest to. And that character had to carry the movie, basically, and he had to communicate through his expressions. And Harry was the first time that we did a radio-controlled animatronic mask. It's
like looking in a room full of your children and you're saying goodbye to parts of your life and your family. Which pieces in this collection were the hardest for you to part with?
Well, it was all pretty hard. I had gotten rid of a few things before, and what I really liked about it was the people who got these things, you know, it's like their treasure. You know, they have, you know, something from Gremlins 2, and it's like displayed in their living room in a case, and it's something that they, you know, they treasure, where, you know, I had it sitting in a box in the basement, you know, and I'm looking forward to these things becoming somebody's treasure now. You know, this Mikey Gary, this giant bat, this doesn't fit in most people's homes, you know, but there are a few of those collectors out there that do have, like, you know, their own basic museums, you know, so, you know, I think hopefully they'll end up with one of these things. You know.
So Rick Baker is pretty awesome, and if you want to have one of his creations in your house, you guys go to probstore.com on Friday, May 29th at 11 o'clock in the morning. You guys can bid from home. I'm going to be bidding. Or if you're in LA, stop by Universal City at the Universal Hilton. They will be there on display. You guys, it doesn't get more awesome than this. Click left to find out a few things that you may not know about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or you can also click right to see how we ranked all 8 movies from director Cameron Crowe.